Okay, let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. And today's webinar is focused around manufacturing and innovation, with the focus on Divergent 3D. My name is Bobby Schoen. I'm VP of Europe at Trinamics. At Trinamics, we're a specialist Oracle implementation partner, focusing on supply chain and end-to-end implementation of Oracle Cloud solutions. We're a global organization with over 900 employees and over 400 clients. Today with me, I have Lionel Alberts, who is Industry Strategy Director for Manufacturing at Oracle, and Prantik Chakraborty, who is US Trinamics VP and lead of the Trinamics manufacturing practice. I have a pre-recorded session with Philippe Brisset, who is the IT Transformation Director at 3D Divergent. And we'll play that before we get into a Q&A. The Q&A at the end will be available, but there's a button at the bottom, so feel free to push that button at the bottom of the screen during the presentation for any questions that you have. This webinar will also be recorded, and we will send out a link to all those that have attended. So the agenda for today's webinar will be an introduction to Divergent 3D, followed by my pre-recorded session with Philippe, where we discuss Divergent 3D business model and challenges, together with his story around their transformation project utilizing Oracle Cloud solutions. After that, I'll be discussing with Lionel Prantik the trends in manufacturing, how Oracle Cloud is utilized, what are the key learnings using Oracle Cloud in a transformation program, the importance of ESG in relation to manufacturing, and some of the best practices required during an IT transformation project. So before I get to the interview with Philippe, I'd like to play a short video to introduce Divergent 3D. So now I'd like to play the recording of my interview with Philippe. This will last about 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you. Welcome, Philippe, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about your experience and what you've been doing at Divergent 3D. And thanks again for taking the time to share that experience with people on the webinar. I wanted to start a little bit by asking you to kind of introduce yourself and what you've been doing at Divergent 3D, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Hi, thank you for having me. Well, my name is Philippe Brisset. I'm the Director of Enterprise Applications for Divergent 3D. I've been working with this company for about 4 years. I mean, with an interruption between, but overall, I have about 20 years of experience with mostly Oracle ERP solutions around usually e-business and ERP Cloud. Prior to that, I was doing manufacturing process improvement. So I'm very familiar with the manufacturing processes and industry, and then I moved on to be more on in the enterprise application space. And specifically for Divergent, my role has been around the implementation of Oracle ERP Cloud. I came on board just after the initial implementation to stabilize the application, and later on to develop and add and configure additional modules and functions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Philip. Philip, maybe could you introduce a little bit to people who are not aware of what Divergent 3D is a company, what they do, where you sit in the marketplace, and some of your unique propositions for the organization that you're working with at the moment, please.
Absolutely. So Divergent is a company based in Torrance, California. This is a startup, or now a startup in evolution to become a bigger company. Our main business and industry is additive manufacturing, or some call it 3D printing, therefore the 3D in the Divergent 3D. But this is printing metal, so such as titanium, aluminum, and other alloys. Now, what makes Divergent different from other companies that may be doing additive manufacturing is that we provide a full solution for virtual manufacturing, and in some ways also to provide services that are along the line of what some call manufacturing 4.0. So what does that mean? That means that we actually provide the design, first the design of the parts, including AI optimization, so that we can come up with designs that are not typically available by just manual design. Once that design is completed and approved, then it can be printed. And keep in mind, obviously, that additive manufacturing provides some unique capabilities that regular manufacturing processes cannot. And beyond that, beyond the printing process, we also provide the assembly side with use of robots. And all this is being managed by our internal system called DAPS. So it's the Divergent Adaptive Production System, which allows us to basically manage the entire manufacturing cycle digitally with customers. We can also alternatively provide the solution and the technology to our clients as well, if they want to incorporate that in their own manufacturing process.
Excellent. I think maybe I'd pick up on one or 2 points that you said, particularly around manufacturing 4.0 and the ability to allow your clients to now use your technology on their sites, for example. Do you see that as improving the supply chain operation in terms of availability of product or speed of getting the parts to the market? Is that one of the aims of what you're trying to do with the technology at Divergent?
Yes, absolutely. So obviously, this digitalization of the manufacturing process overall allows to be faster to market. Keep in mind, obviously, that additive manufacturing is not for every kind of manufacturing. Mm-hmm. This is better for certain applications, and especially in our case, within the automotive and aerospace and defense industries. Now, beyond the speed and the faster integration with customers and suppliers around the world, this technology also has an impact in terms of sustainability, by allowing to dematerialize some of the process, limiting the amount of material and energy needed to achieve the same result. And then in terms of capital cost, it's also reduced by not having to do a full setup before initiating a new production or a new prototype.
I want to ask one more question, and this is kind of bring it together in terms of what you're saying for your USP, but also how are the drivers for selecting Oracle as a software vendor and as a technology partner from your understanding and how you've worked so far, and specifically, how does that relate to what you're doing in the manufacturing operation side of your business?
Well, first and foremost, obviously, Oracle is obviously one of the top tier vendors in this space, and ERP as well as the other applications related to ERP. So that's obviously one of the main drivers, especially because at some point the company was evolving from a startup focused more on R&D, using regular tools for accounting and maybe some of the other processes such as procurement. But at some point it became clear that a better integrated system was needed to meet the demands of, for example, our investors, auditors, and overall to be ready for the next phase, which would be now the production phase as opposed to R&D. Yeah.
With that, what are some of the challenges you're looking to overcome by working with Oracle and implementing the solutions that Oracle have to offer?
So first, in terms of challenges, like any implementation, especially ERP implementations, there's always a learning curve, especially when you come from a startup with minimal processes or maybe non-standard processes, and having to maybe conform to kind of best-in-class type of processes that you want to implement as part of implementing an ERP solution. And that's kind of the first phase, the first part that's kind of the most difficult. So it's very important to have a very good change management in place, the plan for that, because the change can be quite steep. I mean, the difficulty can be quite anyway. So that's the system first, and also having to change a little bit some of the processes and the habits to follow the standard procedures, whereas startups tend to be obviously much, trying to be flexible. So it's always the balance between being flexible while being also compliant.
Okay.
So obviously, as part of the change management, the training is important, but also it's important to have also the right partner for the implementation, and also the for support going forward. So I would say these are the main issues down the line. As we've seen, I mean, the other challenges come with integration with other system and additional maybe partners with the suppliers or customers.
And thank you. You talked about having the right software, and also you talked about having the right partner. May ask you a question on how it was working with Trinamics. What are the things that helped you and the team at Divergent working with Trinamics to deliver this project and implementation?
So the primary driver for selecting Trinamics was the breadth of its expertise, okay? And having also the sufficient size to be able to find resources needed, whether it's from a support standpoint, like MSP services, or implementation of, major modules. And this is important because we want to establish, obviously, a relationship that's working for the long term, and being a partner that can, support us over time was kind of one of the key drivers. And obviously, and also the experience in especially ERP cloud, which was not always something that was true of in every partner.
Yes, no, thank you for sharing that. That's nice to hear from a Trinamics perspective. And I guess finally, Philippe, again, before I let you go, so what's next for you and Divergent? What are your plans going forward, particularly around the use of Oracle?
So Keep in mind that initially we went with financials and procurement, which is kind of the basis for the main functions around obviously having and the goals to have proper financial statements, proper financial report process. Now this year we've been focusing on adding manufacturing and inventory as well as costing, order management. And then the last piece was more on the integration side with OIC, or Oracle Integration Cloud, that we use to integrate the PLM solution to ERP Cloud. Now going forward, the focus will be more and more on the manufacturing and the tighter integration, especially on the MES side. So we have a third-party MES system or manufacturing execution system. And our plan is to tighten the integration between the ERP side to the MES side so that we can share data such as obviously the items and bonds, bill of materials, the work definitions and the steps, so that in return, after completion of the different stages of production, we can update and have accurate and current costing. Okay. Beyond that, the integration with suppliers is kind of key. So we're enabling additional features on the supplier portal side. Okay, that includes supplier onboarding, supplier qualification, approved supplier list, and PO collaboration to start. Going forward, once we have this in place, and because it's taking some time to get all this in place and clean, then we can then proceed with supply chain planning, which is really the next step, the next big project for us.
Excellent. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you for your time today, Philip. It's been really fascinating to learn more about what you're doing at Divergent, and the fact that 3D printing in the auto sector is kind of something that you're really addressing, and with the view of being able to source and manufacture anywhere almost without the four walls constraint. So thank you for sharing your experiences today with us. I wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you.
And yes, we'll be taking some further questions, but thank you so much for your time today, Philip. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. So that was a pre-recording I had with Philippe. I hope you all found that interesting. And I'd now like to move on to discussion points with Plantic and Lionel in terms of the applicability of the Divergent 3D case within the wider manufacturing industry and the Oracle Cloud system. Let me start with Plantic. So Plantic, we heard from Philippe in terms of Divergent and their outlook. What do you see the trends within the manufacturing industry from a Trinamics perspective?
Hi, Bobby. Yeah, so great insights from Philip. And before starting with the trend, let me quickly introduce myself. I have been in supply chain and manufacturing space for last 24 years, mostly specializing around Oracle technologies. I've seen and worked in multiple industries, semiconductor, industrial manufacturing, automotive, distribution, process. And then I have seen for last 24 years how things have moved, and especially from the MES days to today's cloud world. So very happy to work with multiple customers in this space, and we'll be sharing what we have seen, learned, and how things are moving, right? So having said that, before I talk about the trends, I want to set some business context, why we are seeing what we are seeing, right, from a trend perspective. So especially if you look at the manufacturing industry, whether we are talking about high-tech, in-house manufacturing, external manufacturing, or industrial manufacturing, which is predominantly in-house, a big part of it is the infrastructure is, in many cases, pretty dated infrastructure. We are working with many customers who are still in AS400 for their manufacturing process. And that technology, beyond doubt, is old. People who are supporting the talents, they're aging. So there's a big push to get to the modern infrastructure, just from a risk perspective, right? So that's one aspect. Then the second aspect is a lot of onshoring, offshoring is happening because of different geopolitical trends. So there is a big need for standardization of the process, manufacturing process especially, and how it, in context to broader supply chain. There is need for operation flexibility, right? As Divergent 3D case Philip was mentioning, manufacture anywhere, right? So that's a big need from a business perspective to optimize and maximize wherever there are production facilities and resource and talent to scale up the manufacturing and volume, right? And also at the same time be flexible and nimble. There are trends or business requirements we're seeing where manufacturing companies or OEMs are moving significantly from a product company to a service company. So that means fundamental business models have to change. And then last but not least, again, Philip was talking about the cost. There is tremendous cost pressure. There is pressure on profitability. So understanding the cost aspect of manufacturing and in various operations, right? So we work with customers who have project-based manufacturing and then standard manufacturing. We work with customers in A&D space who have very specific costing requirement for how they do business with Department of Defense, while a part of their business operation is standard. So flexibility from a cost structure perspective, understanding the cost to the T, and then work on the pricing and manage profitability. So these things are predominant. They and we see more and more for last 10 years or so. And then what's happening is with the huge and rapid change in technology, right? All the new technologies that have been coming in broader supply chain, in broader ERP perspective, cloud computing, data computing, analytics, a lot of AI/ML based modeling, and then of late, generative AI, so on and so forth, right? So these are opening up new opportunities for us. So given the business perspective, the business needs that I was talking about, and the evolution of new technology, we see 3 to 4 clear trends. The first, I'll say, digitization of shop floor. So we still work with customers who kind of release paper-based work instruction at the shop floor, right? But given everything that is happening, the broad needs, the business requirement, there is a significant trend to create a digital twin. So we have been talking about supply chain digital twin, and manufacturing is part of a broader supply chain, right? So there is definitely, we see a lot of impetus going in creating a digital twin within the manufacturing aspect of supply chain, so that first we can track, trace, we can see what is happening at which part, whether in terms of material coming in, material moving out, work in process. We can track everything, right? What are the steps, who's working on it, if they're qualified to start a manufacturing operation, so on and so forth. So the digitization is a key trend, right? The second key trend is connectivity of the shop floor. Now, when I say connectivity of shop floor, again, going back to what Philip was talking about. So we are moving customers from, let's say, mainframe to MES-based systems. Philip talked about MES. But then when we are talking about the MES-based system, they are still very focused on the manufacturing operation and everything around manufacturing, what's happening in shop floor. But then there's a broader need to get that manufacturing data into ERP. And when we say ERP, just so that we understand what are the boundaries, right? So manufacturing systems are focusing on manufacturing operation within the 4 wall of manufacturing or boundaries of manufacturing. But when we go to ERP, we are talking about procurement, we are talking about order management, fulfilling customer orders, understand the planning processes of it, get the suppliers in the right time so that manufacturing can move and get the orders out the right time so that we can fulfill customers' order, look into the costing aspect of it, and then the financial accounting and reporting. So that's broader ERP. But we need to connect the core manufacturing process to a context to broader ERP so that the other functions, the procurement functions, the costing, accounting, reporting, fulfillment functions can be streamlined, because end of the day, what we are making is we are making some products, right? So these are all connected. So unless we get this information from shop floor to ERP in a context of ERP, the other functions cannot be aligned. So we lose that connectivity, we lose that context. So there are many customers with whom we are working with. Their customers are asking, hey, where is my order? Is it in your shop floor? Is it at your dock? Have you asked your 3PL to move? But to make that judgment, to provide that information to their end customers, our customers needs to know where is their product, where in the building, how long it will take to finish, and what does that mean from our order fulfillment part, right? So this connectivity of shop floor, what is happening at shop floor to get that into the broader business function, that's a second big step that is happening. And many customers are at different stage of the journey, right? Then the third aspect is predictability of manufacturing operations. So I'll say customers who are starting in just digitization, they are probably at a level 1. Customers who are looking at shop floor connectivity to ERP, they are looking at level 2 of maturity. Now, when we start looking at predictability, so this is where the new technologies are helping. So that means my job is running today, and let's say we are in process manufacturing, it will take a week to finish that batch run, right? In semiconductor, it takes months to finish when we start wafer. Are we going to finish on time? What is the probability that something will go wrong? Are my machines are working on time, right? So this predictivity of our operation, that's becoming key. And with all this modern technology that cloud-based ERP solutions are providing, where we have inbuilt connectivity of shop floor through IoT software, and they have their machine learning models, so that we are getting a lot of data from shop floor to ERP, and then based on that data, we can predict. That is becoming the kind of the third trend that we are seeing. But again, I want to remind that unless we have gone through the digitization, then the connectivity, then the predictivity comes. So this needs to follow a pattern. And based on that, once these things are there, I will say a parallel trend that we are seeing is the ESG, because now we have to look into reducing carbon footprint, follow the ESG regulations per country or per region. So what we are producing is following the ESG standards, because if we are not meeting those standards, eventually we are not able to fulfill the customer requirements and audit requirements. So these are the 4 trends that we see, and various customers are at different levels of maturity, but working through this digitization, I'll say mostly. Bobby?
Thank you, Prantik. Really interesting to how you pull together the trends from a geopolitical perspective down to sort of operational level, and then being able to fulfill by the fact that you're now having so much more data available to be much more proactive, and how you're linking sort of the modern trend in the technology that's allowing for that predictive capability within an operation through various phases of maturity of the operation. So thank you, Prantik. I'll come back to you with another question a bit later.
Sure.
I want to now ask Lionel the following question. So Philippe talked a lot about the digitization, and Prantik's also mentioned it at Divergent 3D. I was wondering, Lionel, if you could give Oracle's point of view on this, and where Industry 4.0 plays into that, as well as Oracle's view on AI and ML.
Sure. Thanks, Bobby. And yes, thanks to Philippe testimony. And actually, you understand from Prantik that manufacturing industries have a lot of challenge, and those challenges they need to tackle are more and more, let's say, stronger. And on the same time, the majority of the manufacturing companies have processes implemented since, let's say, 20 to 15 years, with the processes at that time. But since 20 years, the technology has changed, the processes have changed, the market have changed, everything have changed. And this is why at Oracle, we are seeing a nice momentum there, to say it like that, where as manufacturing companies need to change the processes, and the technology now is ready there to help them adopting, for example, Industry 4.0, because as Prantik said, and as Philippe said, is data is key for manufacturer. to produce in the right quantity at the right quality at the right time, while lowering all the costs of doing so. And not to mention the last point that Patrick was mentioning was the ESG, the sustainability pressure there. So this is where at Oracle we are fully convinced that moving to a cloud solutions and to adopt the Industry 4.0 capabilities, let's say connecting the machines and resources to the ERP, so merging IT and OT data in order to predict the quality of a production, or in order to predict the volume of the production as well, is key for them. It's key to change and adapt those processes to the new manufacturing world, if I can say. And if we consider, for example, Divergent 3D offering, which helps you dematerialize a factory, and we'll come back later on during the discussion, this is key there. You can imagine that one strong, let's say, constraint for manufacturer is a shop floor, because you cannot move your shop floor from one place to another place. So they need to deal with. And if we find a way to digitalize that and to give them some flexibility there, for example, for subcontracting, or if you have a road which is stop there, imagine the flexibility it brings to manufacturing world. So for me, that's key there. And AI and machine learning is just between quotes, it's just something which is normal when you can merge IT and OT data. When you're on the cloud, you have the capability to compute all those data. Just let the AI and machine learning help the supervisor to take the right decision. It's just an additional help to help the people on the shop floor to take the correct decision. So that's all. But this is key there. It was not possible before, it's possible now.
Thank you, Lino. Really appreciate your insights on the Oracle strategy around Industry 4.0, and the way that AI and ML now can be used with the data that's now starting to be able to be mined effectively. My next question is to Prantik. Prantik, so Philippe talked about potential new business models, the ability to manufacture anywhere with the technology they're offering. From a Trinamics and an implementation partner's perspective, how are you seeing the implementation of Oracle to support the manufacturing industry and helping them to drive these new business models in the industry?
Yeah, a great question. So again, I'll build upon the points that I made from a trend perspective. So where we come in as a partner, we have two aspects of how we support our customer, right? So one aspect is how we use the best practices provided by the modern tools, like Cloud ERP that Oracle provides, because the best practices are built in there. And then how we take that in context to customer business process, right? So a big aspect is how we get, so I'll be limiting to the manufacturing example. So how we get the right shop floor data from the MESs. In many cases, we are even connecting to the PLCs and SCADA to get the right information. To ERP, in the context that ERP understands to support all the business functions. So as I mentioned, procurement, costing, order fulfillment, planning, accounting, so on and so forth, right? Profitability calculations stuff. So there's a big part, and these are templatized processes that we have learned, developed, working with multiple customers, right? So that's one aspect. So how to use the platform. The second aspect is how to use the platform and use this embedded technologies that Oracle provides. So, and modern ERP, right? This was unheard of 20 years back. Modern ERP provides layer of IoT to connect data to get from machines, right? And the AI, ML, the predictive technologies are all inbuilt into modern ERP, so that we can go into the predictive mode, right? So those are two things. Then the third aspect is, to Philip's point, manufacture anywhere. That means you need a lot of flexibility. At the same time, you need standard processes, right? So we have working with customers who are saying, hey, depending on different manufacturing sites, the simple work instruction or routing definition, that is different. The costing aspect of that manufacturing is different because we use different global standards. So we are working with our customers to implement global standard processes, how the manufacturing operation, which might be very detailed in shop floor, but very standardized from a ERP perspective, how that can be reflected in ERP, right? So that if you are onboarding a new site, if you are offboarding, you are going through mergers and acquisitions, there are templates and SOPs that you can quickly adopt. And in a matter of 2 months, you can onboard a site, right? Because that is coming through what? One, the digitization of the processes, then standardization of global template. That's something you can adopt across the board. But one process might not be sufficient, because the moment you start looking at the accounting, reporting, and around ESG, there are local processes that you have to take care. So cloud ERP is flexible in that sense, that it supports the global process adoption, that we are working with customers with the templates. At the same time, it supports the localization needs, especially from accounting, reporting, ESG perspective. So that's the knowledge we are bringing to the table. One, from a technology perspective. The second is from the process perspective, where there are two things that is happening: globalization of standard process around manufacturing, and then supporting the localization from accounting, reporting, and ESG perspective. So I think that would be my 2 cents, how we are helping this process.
Thanks, Prantik. That's it's good to see how you get globalization and localization within context of a wide manufacturing operation that relies on many partners, many raw materials, finished goods and semi-finished goods into that. So thank you for that. So moving on, Lionel, we've heard the term ESG quite a few times so far in our discussion. And I want to broaden it out in terms of Divergent 3D kind of taking a step forward in being able to have this manufacturer anywhere ethos to potentially reduce carbon footprint by moving inventory and orders closer to the endpoint of demand and customer base. I wanted to ask you what Oracle's point of view is around ESG, particularly within the manufacturing industry.
Yeah, and as a global ambassador for ESG at Oracle, I'm very sensitive on that idea as well. And yes, Divergent 3D is showing the way there. Just think about sustainability or carbon emission or carbon footprint. Obviously, everybody think about transport, optimizing transport or having a full truckload. Yes, this contribute to carbon emission to have a lower carbon emission. But this is not all that. In fact, when we think about sustainability, this has an impact on the design of a product, because when we design a product, we need to think about the product from the beginning of its life to the end of its life. So, for example, to change the way it is conceived, and at Oracle, for example, we have changed the design of our servers in our data centers in order to reduce the level of plastic we used on that. So this has an impact on the design of a product. But this also an impact on the sourcing of a component. For example, you might source a component close to the place you are producing, or you might source a component from suppliers who have already also an ESG policy in place. Of course, lowering carbon footprint have an impact on your manufacturing process. If you can decrease the level of energy you consume by a machine, of course, this contributes to the sustainability. But not only. The quality of a production have an impact on your carbon emission. If you are doing goods on the first time, the correct quality on the first time, you reduce the scrap, and then this has an impact on your quality, on your carbon footprint as well. But take into account, for example, in Europe, we have a new law which is coming now that we need to have goods which can be repaired, meaning that repairing a product, meaning that this has an impact on your supply chain, either to implement a reverse logistic to get the goods inside and to repair on a depot repair, or either to have a subcontractor to do the repair for yourself, or for you to send a technician on the field with the correct spare part to do the repair the first time. So sustainability has an impact on all the processes of the company, and manufacturers are really under that pressure because we only have one planet, and all the manufacturers need to work on that. And we are we are convinced at Oracle as well that for the sustainability will also be a brand argument, meaning that manufacturers we can say I am sustainable. It's a positive argument for their consumers or customers. So that's why ESG for us is key there, and to help our customers to be more sustainable, we have introduced this summer configuration guide around ESG for our maintenance solution, service solution, fixed asset, accounts receivable, and manufacturing, in order to set up Fusion Cloud ERP for to collect those data Patrick was mentioning just before, and to report on those data as well.
Excellent, thank you. I see this as a really important topic. So what I would like to say to anyone following this, if you want to find out more about ESG and what Oracle are doing, and go into a bit more detail of what Lionel's been talking about today, please feel free to reach out to him or myself. We can have those further conversations going forward. What I'd like to do now is to open up a little bit of a discussion between Lionel and Prantik in terms of what Oracle looks for in an implementation partner, and how does a partner like Trinamic help in delivering innovation in Oracle Cloud projects. So Lionel, maybe if you could go first and give the Oracle's perspective, and then Prantik, please do have that discussion with Lionel.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. And yes, you've seen since the beginning of this webinar that manufacturing world is changing, and manufacturing companies need to innovate. And with Trinamics and Oracle, with our solution there, can help those manufacturers to innovate. And just to take one example for manufacturers, we are seeing also some of the equipment manufacturer now, instead of selling a product, they want to sell the service of that product, meaning that they keep the ownership of that product, but they sell the service. And this also have an impact on everything from the order management, from the design, from manufacturing, from the invoicing aspect of it. And this is a key innovation for companies, because by moving from product to service-centric industries, they keep their customers, they increase their margin, of course, because they're providing additional services there. And they also contribute to better sustainability, because they can reuse and repair that product they are servicing as well. So for me, this is something which is one of the key innovation we will see on the market, and where Trinamics is a good partner for us.
Yeah, so I'll take that cue from Lionel. So innovation is key, right? And I can probably speak for ours, how the platform, Cloud ERP platform, is allowing us to innovate across multiple manufacturing industry. I'll probably take two quick examples. One example, we are working with a global semiconductor customer, and literally they have been running their manufacturing operation, costing, transportation, etc., for last 25 plus years out of mainframe. And we worked with them and showed them potential of modern technology. Again, all the points, right? The digitization, the connectivity, the predictability, right? So they have kind of looked into the potential, they trust the potential, but then if you're talking about 80 country operation, 150 manufacturing sites, you can understand the scale. What will it take to reach that end state? Maybe a couple of years, maybe 3, 4, 5 years. Now, the pace of adoption has also increased, but you cannot do all of that in one shot, right? So what we are doing, working with Oracle, working with customer. So just for the semiconductor industry, we as a partner have developed a smart manufacturing app to support additional semiconductor templates on top of Oracle manufacturing. And then we are doing pilot with customer with 5 of their sites, and we are showing them, okay, how to go about it, how to rationalize your data, how to rationalize your item, bill of material, routing structure, so that we can get that digital footprint of manufacturing into cloud, and then and through our Fab Connect app, which is a semiconductor manufacturing app, we get that data into Cloud ERP, because that sits between their MES system and Cloud ERP. So once that data is translated, into cloud ERP, then we can start looking into the predictive model. So that's one innovation. Again, we work with Oracle to get this innovative solutions, working with Oracle Cloud Platform, so that, and then we get into pilots with customer. Most of this new age solutions that's coming into manufacturing, the prescriptive method is to look at a pilot, see how things are going, how people process needs to change because new roles are coming in. It's not just only technology, right? The process and the people. So there are pace of adoption. I think Philip mentioned about adoption. That's why many manufacturing customers go step by step. So this is one example we are helping customers. I'll take another example from the procurement process. So there is another global customer, again, 80 plus country operation. They build complex ATM machines. In their case, their entire supply chain, they have 3,500 suppliers. They were communicating pretty offline with the buyers. So our customer has around 500 buyers and 3,500 suppliers to manage. And imagine all the supplier response coming through email, and the buyers are kind of every day scanning mails and trying to get information and put in the ERP system, right? So now we are working with our customer, and we have gone through this process over the last 6 months. We have implemented supplier portal where the key suppliers who drive 80% of all the procurement volume for our customer, they come into the supplier portal of Cloud ERP. They still send some information through mail, and we use RPAs or bots to scan that information, put all the information in supplier portal. And once the POs are in supplier portal, the shipment notices are in supplier portal, then all of that flows into ERP from a broader construct, manufacturing, order fulfillment. So our customer has a complete visibility of when they're ordering, what they're ordering, and when they're going to get their material into their manufacturing facility. And that drives the fulfillment part of it. So there's a lot of innovations happening. And again, most of the implementation trends we are seeing, customers are doing pilot, they're making sure that they understand the new process, they understand the data need. Many times the data is not ready, right? In some cases, the partners are not ready, right? So pilots give us a full idea what needs to change, how we are going to adopt, and then we go on rollouts and implementation. So a lot of interesting things happening in the broader manufacturing space, and we would encourage our customers to start looking at this innovation and kind of validate that innovation, how it will work in their context through some of the pilot implementations.
Lena, is there anything you want to kind of come back with on Prantik's point there?
No, fully in line with that.
Okay, so I'm looking at the time. We have about 10 minutes to go. I'd like to thank Lionel and Prantik for their points that they've raised so far. As we come towards the end of this webinar, I'd probably just like Lionel and Prantik just to summarize and give some parting thoughts to the people on this webinar. If I could start with Lionel, and then Prantik, if you could go next.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. My parting thoughts will be, I think you've noticed that since the beginning of this webinar, and I think that Trinamics and Oracle can be your partner to be with you and to build your future, in fact. The manufacturing is transforming, and we are your partners to transform that because we are already on the future there.
My 2 cents will be the amount of innovation that is coming in, limitless, right? So don't think if you are in charge of manufacturing operation, don't think that there is nothing for manufacturing, broad manufacturing process. There are a lot of scope to improvement, information around manufacturing, how that is taken in broader context for your overall business process. And all this innovation is available to be adopted. So we will definitely encourage you to start discussing with us, start discussing with Oracle, look at some of the pilot implementation, prove out, and create a business case for a broader adoption. But with the new technologies coming in, and again, if you look at supply chain talent, manufacturing talent, all the new age folks, they want to work on new technology. So that really, so again, we should not leave out the supply chain manufacturing talent aspect of it. People, process, technology. Without people, nothing will be successful, right? Yeah, so we also need to encourage new generation folks to start looking into new technologies, new way of doing things, so that overall they can make a positive impact to your business. But definitely start looking into this new capabilities.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm just checking on Q&A, see what questions we have. I've got one probably best for Lionel in terms of roadmap. So who is driving the roadmap when it comes to Oracle solutions, customers, industry? How do you go about driving the future requirements within the Oracle solution, Lionel?
That's a very good question, actually. We are now on the cloud, so it's a SaaS solution, ERP and manufacturing our SaaS solution, meaning that we are providing quarterly release. And so we have now our customers are driving this roadmap, in fact. So we are taking the inputs of our customers all time, and those requirements are the item of the roadmap. And we're introducing that very regularly, 4 release a year. It's not anymore release, actually, for updates. And those innovations are coming quarterly, driven by our customer base.
Excellent, thank you. And I think I've got one here for Prantik. What are the key lessons learned from a manufacturing implementation, please?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the biggest lesson learned, and I have been talking about pilot in my section. We had a couple of cases where we went for multi-country, multi-site implementation for manufacturing. The key lesson learned is even before going into, so again, when we say manufacturing, from our perspective, we implement kind of end-to-end process, right? Except planning, in many cases, planning implementations come as a phase 2, phase 3, but order management, manufacturing, procurement, and the financial accounting along with that, right? So that's what we kind of call end-to-end. But for big manufacturing implementations, I'll say where we had multiple sites and customers have been working with old systems, old way of defining manufacturing process, we had some hurdle to go for a big bang approach, right? Trying to do everything together. They have not been very successful in that sense. So of late, based on all those understanding, I think the key lessons that we have learned and kind of taking that in the new manufacturing implementations, we are picking pilot sites and we are kind of keeping an eye to what is the end state, but we are going for this pilot deployment just to make sure, even if it's a global implementation, multiple country, we figure out what are the nuances of manufacturing, whether there's interplant, whether the internal manufacturing, external manufacturing, what's the nuances that comes around costing of it, what's the nuances from an order fulfillment perspective, accounting perspective. So we look at what is the end state of the business process, but when we pick the sites, we try to go for 3, 4, 5 of the pilot sites that represents the whole business process. We go for a pilot implementation to prove it out, because there are surprises that happens. And then you have to align global stakeholders, right, from all these business functions. And based on that, then kind of go for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 broader rollouts. Because of these new technologies, and there's a lot of enthusiasm to adopt the new technologies, but again, you have to go step by step, right? Because if the data is not there, if you are not well digitized, then there is only a limit that you can start adopting. So first take a look at that, what needs to be done, prove it out with a set of pilot sites, then start for bigger rollout implementation. I think that has been the key learning from last 3 to 4 years of global implementation for us.
Excellent, thank you. I'm just looking at time. I think we're at the bottom of the hour, a few minutes left. Again, I'd like to thank Philippe from 3D Divergent, Lionel from Oracle, Prantik from Trinamics. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and inputs. For the people on the webinar, just to remind you all that we'll be sending out the link I do hope you found that useful. If there's any further points or anything that you think of, please do reach out. We'd love to have further conversations on the industry and where it's going. But with that, thank you all for joining, and hope you stay safe, and we shall be seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.